Welcome. Welcome, everyone. It's Angelo Robles. Your money is growing. Your judgment is dying. And I think your kids can tell. So, two questions tonight. That's actually it. But I'll warn you now, most principals can't answer either one. And the ones who try usually don't like what comes out of their own mouth. Question one: what's growing faster in your family, your capital or your judgment? Question two: your heirs. Do they actually want in, or are they politely or not so politely waiting for permission to want out? 20 years inside of more than 100 family office ecosystems around the world, I'll tell you plainly, those two questions decide more dynasties than every investment decision ever made in those families combined. Not the portfolio, not the tax structure, not the manager selection. These two. So tonight, no tools, no tech stack, no market call, just those two questions taken seriously the way that almost nobody takes them. So, capital versus judgment. Start with the first one because it sounds, again, it almost like a riddle. And it's really just arithmetic. Your capital compounds. That's the entire design. The portfolio grows. The structures protect it. The statements print. And every year, the number, we hope, maybe not every year, but compounding over time is bigger than the year before. And you built a machine for overtime compounding money. It kind of works. Now ask the same question about your judgment, your family's judgment. Why you passed on that deal in 2014, how your father read a counterparty across the table. What was actually learned in the crisis your children only heard about secondhand? The pattern recognition that took 30 years and real losses to build. Is that compounding? Be honest. In most families, it's just failing to compound. It's actually actively dying. It dies every time a senior executive retires, walks out the door with 20 years of context in their head. It dies every time the founder makes a brilliant call. Of course, you always do. And nobody writes down the reasoning, just the outcome. And it dies permanently and completely at every funeral. Now, look at that asymmetry, because really it is staggering. You have an entire apparatus protecting the capital. I hope I'm being a little generous there. Trustees, custodians, auditors, investment committees, millions a year commonly in fees, all of it guarding the money. What's the apparatus for the judgment? Who is the custodian of that? Of really the why? In most families that I've been inside, families with 10-figure balance sheets, the answer is most commonly nobody. There's no system. There's hope, sure. The hope that somehow, over dinners and holidays and a few good conversations, the wisdom transfers by, wait for it, osmosis. It doesn't. I've watched it not transfer for over 20 years. So, sure, the number on the statement grows. The capability, the steward, that number shrinks. Eventually, those two lines, they will cross. Usually in the second generation, reliably by the third. We all know the phrase, which I agree, we can debate nuances of it, but it is a global phrase, no matter where I travel, in its own words for a reason. Shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. Maybe more apropos, purchasing power to purchasing power over 3 generations, and often, definitely, because the lack of institutional knowledge, really judgment over those generations. Now, I know everyone quotes it like the weather, like it's something that happens to other families, unlucky ones, of course, but it's not the weather. It is exactly this. The assets transferred and the judgment didn't. What's so hard about that? And assets without judgment, it's not true wealth. They're a countdown with a nice statement attached. Here's a sentence that I think is important for me to convey. Most families are getting richer and less capable at the same time. And they're reporting, they're reporting only measures the first one. Your quarterly package tells you the capital grew. Great. Nothing you receive, nothing tells you whether your family's judgment grew this quarter, whether the next generation understands one more thing than they did perhaps in March, whether anything that lives in the founder's head made it out of the founder's head. You measure what you treasure. And this industry has trained families to treasure exactly one of two things that actually matter. Now, we'll hang on that one. Before I get to the second question, I need to tell you what happened when I asked a principal really something else entirely. Boy, it's one of my favorite questions. It's so simple. You could take it. It's okay. What is your family office actually for? Like, we're unburdened by short-term pressure. We take a long view. Often institutional investors can't. We do direct deals. We bypass the traditional channels. We're patient capital. We can wait 10 years for something to mature. Every one of those is true. If you run a family office, it's probably close to what you'd probably tell me. But there is a problem. Every single one of those things, think about it. And I'm like Mr. Single Family Office. But every single one of those things is now available to your children without you. Because I asked the next generation, this is the key to my context here. I asked them the same question and they answered it. Now, these are younger adult children, sure, but they answered it completely differently. Think about it. It's not 2006 anymore. They can access venture deals through something like AngelList. They can run, I know this one, institutional grade analysis, probably better and certainly faster with AI tonight for the price of probably a subscription. They can hire world-class expertise on demand by the hour from anywhere on earth, patient capital. They have the same balance sheet you do, long-term horizon. They're 30. They have considerably, often more than you. So the rising generation is not asking, what is the family office for? Now, for my members, I did a deep dive on this and 850, no, that's no joke, 850 other questions when in October of this past year or last year, I put out my family office playbook. And we do a deep dive in this, including at my programs, AKA my events, my one-on-ones, and more proprietary deeper dives in research. But nonetheless, I'm happy to share the snippets and things I'm talking about tonight with many of you. So the rising generation is not necessarily asking, what is the family office for? They're actually, much to my chagrin, they're asking a much harder question. Why do we need one at all? Now, I can go into privacy control, customization. I don't know, maybe those appeal more to an older audience or those that maybe created the wealth. A pattern that I'm beginning to see a little bit and pretty consistent, whether I'm in Mexico, Palo Alto, Australia, pretty consistent across the board. And This is one that is going to have to be answered by the industry. Why do we need one at all? And I want to be honest with you, in most families, that question does not have sometimes a great answer anymore. Like I said, your family office may have made a lot of sense in 2006 because the services it provided, I'm really dropping some good stuff here. The services it provided were unavailable elsewhere or prohibitively expensive. Consolidated reporting, manager access, deal flow, research, coordination. In 2006, if you wanted it, you built it because maybe you couldn't buy it, but you could afford it. You could build it. Now, in 2026, most of those services are commoditized, democratized, and AI augmented to the point where no single family office can compete, perhaps with specialized providers on any of those. Your reporting is worse, likely, than a platform's. Your research is slower than a model's. Your manager access isn't what it was when access itself was scarce. Now, yes, I believe people, systems, and technology and using AI, there is an edge that a family office could have and build alternatively. But because some of you think I only talk about AI as the solution to everything, although we are trending, like it or not, somewhat towards that, tonight I'm going to keep a little bit away from that refrain, although subtly, with the rising generation and them being more tech native and understanding of AI, they understand the things that I'm talking about. But think about it. We could go a little old school. What is left? The only sustainable advantage left is speed, customization. We come back to that again. Integration and privacy that you cannot get elsewhere. That's the list. That may be all of it to some. And notice what those four things have in common. None of them is a service. They're properties of an institution. You can't buy them from a provider because the second provider sells them to you. They're selling them to everyone else as well. Like that was a whole big thing I went into 2 nights ago and earlier during the week. You know, you're effectively renting intelligence and strategies from people that are utilizing it and selling it effectively to your peers and competitors. I'm not saying there's not some incredibly talented people. There are, and you are going to need them. It's hard to go down this road totally alone. But I want you to think deeper, a little bit more first principles, and really break things down. The reality is most people servicing by the law of numbers are going to be average. Collectively as an organization, what they output is going to be a collective of likely groupthink and subject to the resources they have available and a lot of the same outputs for a variety of reasons. It just is what it is. The sooner you wake up to that, the better. But apparently, I guess many of you just don't want to. So, which means the only things left worth having are the two things I actually opened with: judgment and the capability of the family that holds it. So on to the heirs. The question 2, do your heirs want in or out? Every principal I ask answers too fast. Oh, the kids are involved. Involved. Really? Involved means they attend the family meeting. Involved means they're copied on a quarterly deck. Involved means they have a seat where, what say, what power. A seat is not the same thing as wanting in. And your children know the difference, even when you don't. Here's what I've actually watched across really hundreds within my membership organization of families. The rising generation almost never rejects the wealth. What a surprise. What they reject is the role that they've been offered inside it, because in most families, that role is decorative. Show up, be briefed, nod, don't break anything, and wait. Wait for what? Wait essentially for death. That is the implicit career path, kind of like how most family offices are. Your job is to wait for your inheritance responsibly. And then the parents are genuinely shocked when a bright, capable 30-something-year-old finds that arrangement suffocating and pours him or herself into anything else, maybe a startup, a foundation, a life 3 time zones away. That's not disengagement. That's a rational response to a broken offer. Think about that. And yes, sometimes these principles, those that created the wealth, are not used to being talked to like this. My age, my tenure, and I've gotten a little bit more curmudgeon in as the years have went on. I'm not going to say I don't give a you-know-what. I do. I really care about the families. But if they don't feel that my insight, my breadth of knowledge, however limited, perhaps that may be, is not going to be of value, I know I'm not there to kiss their butt. And I like sometimes to be, I wouldn't quite say a little bit argumentative, but sure, but contrarian. They do get anchored. They're used to having too many yes people around them. And the kind of things I'm talking about now are exactly the kind of things that end up happening, and no one is calling them out to task on it. Like, again, the rising generation, as I described it from that example, that's a rational response, like I said, to a very much a broken offer, especially now, because let's say she already has done the math that I just walked you through. She knows she can reach most of what the family office provides really without it. What she cannot get anywhere else is a role in something that means something, and nobody has offered her one. Here's the sentence I built a lot of my work around. If you take one thing from tonight, take this. You do not give the next generation a seat, you give them capability. A seat is inherited and often quietly resented on both sides of the table. Capability is built and owned. The heir handed real decisions with real stakes early, while the elders are still alive to coach, that their heir engages, not because you demanded loyalty, because you finally gave them something worth being loyal to. Like, why? These are all my decades, my effectively 61 years on earth. I guess I've been doing this since I was a child. It feels that way sometimes. Common pattern over and over. Oh, trust me, I want to talk about AI. I want to talk about geopolitics. I want to talk about macroeconomics. I want to talk about the next 100x investment. Like, that's really where I want to be running to. But I see this over and over, the things I'm talking about now. And occasionally through the year, I'll be more public like I am tonight. And again, my family office playbook, my creating a top 1% family office, and a lot of the more one-on-ones, these are the issues that really need to be addressed early on. So I'll give you perhaps an example. We'll call it family one. The heir is 38, 10 years. How boring. On the investment committee. Never once had final authority over anything. Can recite the portfolio, of course, in their sleep. But never decided. When the transition comes, and it sometimes comes suddenly, he will hold assets he has observed but never operated, that the family transferred a balance sheet, and they call that a succession. Family two, the daughter, 26, was handed a real estate allocation, not play money, real, with real consequences and a real mandate. And her father in the room afterward, not to overrule her, but to interrogate the reasoning. Not, was the outcome good? Was the thinking sound? 10 years of that. She isn't waiting for anything. She's the most capable allocator probably in that family now, including the generation above her. When her transition comes, nothing will actually transfer except the title, because the capability that moved years ago, same wealth, Same love, honestly. Nobody in the family, one that I described was negligent. The difference really was architecture. One family built a waiting room, the other built a training ground. Stay on that one a little bit. That's a huge problem in families. Building a waiting room versus building a training ground. And this is where my two questions collapse into one. The judgment that's dying in question one, the heirs drifting in question two, are the only place, like effectively, that it could go. Judgment doesn't transfer into a trust that an attorney drew up. I don't care how good they are. It transfers into a person, or it dies with the person who has it. It's as simple as that. A family that isn't deliberately building its next generation isn't just risking disengaged children. It is guaranteeing that everything the first generation learned gets learned again from scratch at full price by people who could have inherited that for free. Every generation before ours inherited the assets and started over on the wisdom. Every single one. That is the actual family office problem. It's not fees, not allocation. Well, those could be, but let's not go with it tonight. It's not reporting, it's the forgetting. And underneath the forgetting is the thing almost nobody says out loud. Okay, you're going to get another truth bomb. Most families lack intent and purpose. That transcends a single generation. They have a balance sheet that may potentially span generations, and a purpose that expires with whoever built it. What to do? So, what do you actually do? I think 3 moves. All start, why not? Like right now, this quarter. None require permission from anybody. 1, measure the second line. You measure capital monthly, measure capability at least annually. Ask what nobody puts in the quarterly package. What does the rising generation actually control? Not attend, control. What decisions do they make this year with real consequences? What did this family learn this year that is now written down somewhere outside one person's head? If those answers embarrass you, good. That embarrassment is worth more than your last performance report, because it's measuring the thing that decides whether there's a 4th generation at all. It's funny. It brings me back a little bit of a sidetrack story for a second. I remembered it, and I try to incorporate it with my son as best I could. And sadly, I probably failed here and there relative to emphasizing this enough, but it stuck with me. I remember a father of wealth, a wealth creator, telling me, not every day. I'm not sure if it was once a week or maybe a little less frequent. Basically, and I think his son will call it 13 or 14. What did you fail at today? Implying not that there's shame in failure. If anything, you're stretching your capability. So in a nice fatherly way, what did you stretch yourself on in school and sports and social engagement, whatever it may be, where at least your perception is it didn't hit the highest attainable of what that goal was? That doesn't mean that you didn't learn from it, that you may not hit it tomorrow. The old adage, aim for the stars and hit the moon, is better than aiming for the ceiling and hitting it. Now, the father did note that if I heard the same pattern of a failure on something over and over, then that might be a bigger problem. But it's implying the fear that some children, grandchildren have in highly successful, maybe more public families where they're afraid of failure. Man, I'd really be in trouble. uh, okay, off my little story. 2, convert one seat kind of into a mandate. Pick one area, pick one domain, an allocation, a property, a venture, genuine budget, and hand over actual authority with actual stakes. Then do the part almost nobody does. Review the reasoning, not just the result, regularly while you're alive and sharp enough to coach. One real mandate does more than 10 years of a baloney committee attendance. You know this from your own life. Nobody ever fell in love with a business by observing it. 3, start the capture. And here's the only sentence I'll say tonight about technology. It's hard to stop me. Because for the first time in human history, this problem is actually really solvable. The judgment that always died with its owner can now be captured, made permanent, and made by queryable. Why you passed, how you read the room, what the crisis really taught you, your grandkids asking your reasoning maybe decades from now and getting the answer. I call it, and as does the AI industry, kind of the second brain. Building them is some of the most meaningful work that I do. But here are the order of things. The technology is the container. The judgment is really the treasure. A family that starts writing down its why on legal pads this weekend is ahead of a family with perfect software and no habit of honesty. Let me maybe take this where it actually lives. Your capital, it'll probably be fine. The money is the most protected, most professionally managed, most redundant, safeguarded thing probably in your entire world. Nobody needs to worry about the money. Now, again, I'm just making a point here. What's at risk is everything the money can't buy back once it's gone. The judgment compounding instead of dying. The children choosing this family's work instead of escaping it. Those two things are one thing, and they do not survive by default. They survive by architecture. That word comes back. Built deliberately early while the family, the people who hold the wisdom are still here to hand it over. The greatest family offices are not per se defined by their assets. They're defined by their capability, decision quality, execution speed, strength of its people, clarity of purpose, adaptability of systems, and the capability of the family itself. All 6 of those are measurable. That's what I'll make more of an announcement this weekend. It's up on my website now. But what my new, at least more publicly facing continuity index does. Your family office scored against all 6. 44 questions. We keep it simple initially. 20 minutes. Again, it's all it actually, we'll have a better, more digitally interactive version. It's a little old school now, but it is up on my website at angelorobles.com. And I'll tell you what I do see. Capability of the family is where the strongest balance sheets in the world routinely post effectively their weakest number. Go find out where yours lands. And this summer, August 12th and 13th in New York, is my AI masterclass. 2 days where families build the architecture underneath all of this, including the second brain that I noted that ends the forgetting. And that seat only comes from membership in my private intelligence and strategy community, SFO Continuity. If something landed here tonight, maybe uncomfortable, reply to me via email. Go to my website. My contact info is all there. But it's actually not really tonight's ask. Tonight's ask is smaller, but actually harder. This weekend, maybe you're not even rich. It's okay. Ask your children, your rising gen. Ask them, maybe what do they want to run? Not just attend, run, and then be quiet. Maybe listen to the answer and think about it. What's growing faster, your capital or your judgment? You know why. It's the only question that matters. Everyone, I'm Angelo Robles, a little different tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. Go to angelorobles.com and learn more, including the summer's masterclass and, of course, about membership. I appreciate all of you. I hope you're all going to have a wonderful evening if you're live. A couple of comments. Some of you are used to me being very focused on something like AI and really drilling that in. Today was a very important subject, a little bit more the heart of my family office community. But those of you that may be a little bit on the outside looking in, hopefully there was a nugget or two that was dropped that would provide value. I do appreciate all of you. Thank you for the comments. I know it's been a busy week for me. And like I hinted, probably this Sunday night, I'll do a live on the continuity index. I have something new that I'm going to be announcing, that I'm going to do a kind of a training platform on Monday. So again, like I promised you heading into the summer, I am not, I don't want to compare myself too much to Sergey Brin. He has a couple of more zeros after him, but man, when he went back to Google, because he said this is a once in a lifetime opportunity and he can't just keep away, like I'm really taking that to heart. It's a very special, and I'm not saying not scary time, but it's something where I think I need to have my hand on the pulse. I need to be grinding every day. There's a lot of work to be done, and I want to provide value to the community in a unique way that I don't think anyone, whether I'm likable or not, does not matter in the slightest. Am I providing value? And for members, maybe that's only one special time a year. I hope it's more than that. And I know what I've been writing and outputting as proprietary content and a lot of my new initiatives that I'm doing. It's been a very busy summer. You can learn a lot more about it going to angelorobles.com. And I hope to see some of you this August on 12th and 13th. I'll have my New York forum in September, off to a little jaunt in Europe. Oh, and next week I have on one of my most popular guests of all time. I think it's 53 years as a macro strategist and investor, the one and only David Hunter. He's coming up next Wednesday. I think that's August 5th, probably right after markets close. So let's call it 4 o'clock. And there is a lot going on. So I do look forward to getting back to that macro and investing discussion. But I think tonight was very special, very dear to my heart, and really the anchor, the tenement of the challenges within families of wealth, family offices that represent them, and a lot of the things that go somewhat unsaid that from my perspective, I wanted to share and hope to do more of this. Thank you all so much and have a wonderful evening.